We have one more championship preview. Sorry I didn't get this out yesterday. As I said in the post, I was at a World Series parade, so it was worth it if you asked me to postpone this video. Some of you may disagree, and I apologize. Anyways, we've got one championship done, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. I still stand by that was one of the worst races I've ever seen, but we are moving on. Cup Series Championship is tomorrow at Phoenix Raceway. It's starting at 3 o'clock Eastern, I believe noon local time. I'm not sure how the time change goes in Arizona. They might do, I could have sworn I remember that they do something different for the time change, but 3 o'clock Eastern, I know that for a fact. Anyways, at Phoenix Raceway, this is the 4th championship race at Phoenix Raceway. Ever since Phoenix Raceway has hosted the championship, your champions have been Chase Elliott in 2020, Kyle Larson in 2021, and Joey Logano in 2022. This year, there is a chance that there's a new champion. There's only one repeat champion in this Final Four, and he has won the championship at Phoenix before. Let's go through your Final Four. Kyle Larson is that repeat champion. Ryan Blaney is making his first ever championship four appearance. Christopher Bell is making his second ever championship four appearance, and William Byron is making his first ever championship four appearance. A very young Final Four. I think the average age comes out to like somewhere in the mid-20s. So yeah, the future is now, old man, or whatever that saying is from that TV show. But yes, as I said, Kyle Larson, he is the only guy who has won a championship out of this championship four. And it was 2 years ago at this racetrack at Phoenix Raceway. So we're going to go through the numbers of all the drivers. We're going to go through their season numbers. We're going to go through their Phoenix numbers, and I'm going to pick a champion at the end of this thing. Now, looking at this season first, let's look at it. Ryan Blaney, it is his first championship four appearance. As I said, he has 3 wins on the season. Those wins came at Charlotte in the Coca-Cola 600. The second one came at Talladega in the playoffs, and the other one came at Martinsville last week. He has 7 top 5s, 17 top 10s, 560 laps led, along with 6 stage wins. Now, the 7 top 5s are the least amount in that category out of the Final Four. The 17 top 10s is tied for the least amount out of the Final Four. And the 560 laps led is the least amount of the Final Four. The 3 wins is the third most wins out of the Final Four. The stage wins is the third most out of the Final Four. Then we move on to Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell, he has 2 wins on the season, which is the least out of the 4. 10 top 5s, 19 top 10s, and along with 599 laps led, 4 stage wins. That is the least amount out of the 4. Then we go to Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson has 4 wins, which is the second most out of the 4. 14 top 5s, which is tied for the most out of the Final Four. 17 top 10s, 1,127 laps led, which is the most out of the Final Four. And 8 stage wins, which is tied for the most stage wins out of the Final Four. Then we go to William Byron. Byron has the most wins out of everybody. He has 6, 14 top 5s, 20 top 10s. Those are both either the most, which is the top 10s. He has the most in the Cup Series. And then 14 top 5s that is tied for the most. He's led 921 laps on the year and has 8 stage wins. It's quite a unique Final Four. It really is. Just from those numbers alone, we usually see, sometimes we see 3, even 4 of the guys who have really dominated the season or have been the best throughout the year. And once again, this is no disrespect to any of the 4. They know what the system is. They know what it is coming into this race. But the fact of the matter is statistically, Bell and Blaney are not as good as Larson and Byron, and there are even guys who missed the Final Four that were statistically better. But because of how well Blaney and Bell have run in the playoffs, because of when they won, they are in this Final Four, and they have a good shot at the championship. Now, looking at these 4 guys' seasons, it has been a completely different story for all 4 of these guys. William Byron has been the best driver. They have been the best team all year long. Yes, if you look at how they've won some of the races, a lot of people are saying he backs into a lot of wins. But the fact of the matter is they're in position. They have speed, and they're able to get these wins. And as I said, he has the most top 10s in the Cup Series, and he's tied for the most top 5s in the Cup Series. So they've been incredibly consistent throughout the year, whereas last year, they won a couple races early on, and they had a long stretch without a top 10. And that really hurt them. That really hurt them in terms of playoff points, playoff stability. Whereas this year, they didn't have any long stretches without a top 10 or even a top 5. So they've been extremely consistent this year. Byron has had his breakout year. Can it result in a championship? Speaking of long dry spells, we saw Ryan Blaney go on a long streak without a top 5. It was between his Coke 600 win and his Talladega win that he did not have a single top 5. But other than that, he has really picked it up in the playoffs. He has a couple of wins, ran really well at Homestead, Miami, finished top 5 there. He's been running pretty good in the playoffs, top 10 in all 3 races in the round of 8. They've had an amazing year. Team Penske won the championship last year. Ryan Blaney almost won this race last year, but of course his teammate won the race and championship. Then we go to Kyle Larson, and Kyle Larson, it has been checkers or wreckers. He is either winning the race, finishing in the top 5, or he is wrecking. I'm serious. Larson has 8 DNFs, which I believe is the most in the Cup Series this year. That may be a wrong statistic. After further review, it is a wrong statistic. Only Austin Dillon has him beat. Austin Dillon has 10 DNFs, but Kyle Larson, 8 DNFs on the year. Thinking back to recently, his last 2 have been Homestead, when he was fighting for the lead and drove into the barrels in the pits. Texas, when he was fighting for the lead and just outdrove himself. So he can be fighting for the lead late in the race, best car all day, dominate a race, but he can also throw it away. Kyle Larson has raw talent. He is an extremely talented driver. One of the most talented drivers in the world currently. You can argue with me on that, but that's what I think. Larson has had an outstanding Cup Series career. He's had an outstanding career at Hendrick in just his 3 years there. He's got a championship. He's got almost 20 wins at Hendrick. But the fact of the matter is, they could have 7 or 8 wins this year, but sometimes they don't even finish the race because, as I said, sometimes Larson just outdrives himself, and that is my biggest concern for him. Then we go to Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell, once again, a very talented driver, just like Larson. A dirt background, a guy who the raw talent is there. And they've really picked it up the second half of the playoffs. Finished second at Vegas. Could have won that race. Him and Larson had the best 2 cars. Homestead, he straight up won the race despite a terrible first 2/3 of the race. And then Martinsville, he didn't have a bad run there. Finished top 10, I think. Really good day for him there. And of course, this is his second straight Final Four. And something that I think he has an advantage on that's not being talked about a lot over the other 3 is his crew chief. Adam Stevens is a 2-time Cup Series champion. He won it with Kyle Busch in 2015 and 2019. Adam Stevens could be a difference maker here. As I said, he's one of the best crew chiefs in the garage, arguably the best if you ask me. I think that could be a difference maker. I think that's an advantage that Christopher Bell has over the other 3. Now let's get down to Phoenix. Phoenix itself, the racing there is not great for the Cup Series, especially in the next-gen era. We can see chaos happen on the restarts, yes, because you can fan out 6, 7, 8 wide because of how the track is designed now. We have yet to see chaos at Phoenix in the championship race. We saw chaos at Homestead a couple times. I think 2016 was the most chaotic. But Phoenix just hasn't had any chaos yet, which I guess is kind of nice because this format I don't like. Anyways, if we're looking at Phoenix numbers alone, this is very interesting. William Byron is the most recent winner there. That's something he has. But did you know there has not been a season sweep of Phoenix since 2014 when Kevin Harvick done it? By the way, Kevin Harvick retiring this weekend. In case you forgot, we'll talk about that more in the post-race video. But Kevin Harvick retiring this weekend. He is the last driver to sweep a season, to win both races in a single season at Phoenix Raceway, and it was almost a decade ago. No one has done it since. William Byron looking to become the first. I talk about in my championship previews or my championship cases at the beginning of the playoffs that winning at Phoenix early in the year is a big deal. But, also no one swept it since 2014. So that could be, if you're into that kind of, it's not going to happen stuff, then there you go. I just gave you a reason to pick against Byron, I guess. But looking at the Phoenix numbers, there are only 2 guys who have won at Phoenix in this Final Four, and that is Kyle Larson, who won it at this race 2 years ago, and the old generation car, the Gen 6. And then William Byron, as I said, who won in the spring. Ryan Blaney, his best Phoenix finish is second, which he did twice. He did it this spring, and he did it last fall. And then Christopher Bell's best finish was 6th, which he did this past spring. So all have finished well at Phoenix recently. And that's another thing to talk about. When we talked about the Xfinity Series preview yesterday, we talked about how, those championship contenders had not done great at Phoenix recently, especially the spring. Cup Series is a different story. William Byron was your winner. Ryan Blaney finished 2nd. Kyle Larson finished 4th. Christopher Bell finished 6th. That very well could be the result on Sunday. 1st, 2nd, 4th, 6th. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4. But, that could very well be the result on Sunday. It's going to take a win. There's no question about it. The odds are heavily favoring just the race win to the championship 4. I think Larson is plus 180 or something. Byron is plus 325. Blaney plus 250. Bell plus 425. I put the screenshot over here. I probably had those numbers wrong. But yes, it's going to take a win to win this championship. This is the 10th year or the 10th season of this format. All 9 champions under this format have had to win the race to win the championship. I think that trend continues. The only trend I could see, or the only way I see that trend ending, is if Kevin Harvick wins. Kevin Harvick is the only threat to win this race outside of the Final Four. It's his last race. Phoenix is his best track. He almost won this race in the spring. And the fact of the matter is, if they don't roid that car up, then what are they doing? It's his last race. Go all out. Anyways, back to the Final Four at Phoenix. Let's look at the numbers for Phoenix. Let's go driver by driver. Kyle Larson, as I said, he has a Phoenix win. But if you go to his next-gen average finish, there have been 3 races in the next-gen era. This is where it's a little interesting. He has an average finish of 15.7, but it's a little bit skewed. He had a 4th place finish in the spring, 9th place finish last fall, and he had a 34th place finish in the spring of 22 due to an engine issue. So I think he finished top 10 in the stages in that 34th place finish. So yes, he's been good, but there hasn't been really, in the spring he dominated the race, but he still finished 4th because of a late caution. But the other 2 performances there were not exactly inspiring. He's led 203 laps in the next-gen era. 201 of those laps led were in the spring. Other than that, only 2 laps led in the other 2 races. So that spring race, I think, is the most encouraging thing for Larson, is that they were so good here in the spring. Came up short, looking for a little bit of a redemption. Now, as for Ryan Blaney, he's the 2nd championship favorite, if you ask me. Maybe the favorite just because of how good he is at Phoenix. That's the only reason, though, I would argue a Ryan Blaney championship. If it was at Homestead, I wouldn't, but then he almost proved me wrong a couple of weeks ago, but that's irrelevant. But seriously, Ryan Blaney at Phoenix has been incredible. His next-gen average finish is 2.7 with a 2nd place in the spring, a 2nd place last fall, and a 4th place last spring. He has 3 poles, 2 or 3 poles at this track. For some reason, this track just suits him. This track suits Ford as a whole. Look at the next-gen era winners at Phoenix. Chase Briscoe, Joey Logano, William Byron. That's 2 out of 3 that have been Fords. Ryan Blaney probably would have won this race last fall if it wasn't for the championship hunt for Joey Logano. Blaney was essentially a rear gunner for Logano. He was better than Logano, but because it's the championship race, because that's a teammate in front of you, he's not going to pass him. So Ryan Blaney is so good at Phoenix. A lot of people are picking him to win because of that reason. And it's a good reason. It truly is. He is very good at Phoenix. I don't know why, but this is just his racetrack. I don't know why, but he is so good at it. Then we go to Christopher Bell, and the numbers are not inspiring for Christopher Bell. Bell's best finish, as I said, was 6th. His next-gen average finish is 14th with a 6th place finish this spring, a 10th place finish last fall, and a 26th in the spring of 22. Now, he has only led this many laps at Phoenix in the next-gen era. Larson's led 203, Blaney has led 252, Byron has led 76. So Bell, if he wants to win the championship, that number has to change, obviously. But Bell's numbers just aren't inspiring at this track. Toyota as a whole in the next-gen era has not been inspiring at this track. I know Tyler Reddick finished 3rd there in the spring, but late race restart shenanigans, and it's just been a struggle for him. Then we go to William Byron. As I said, he's your most recent winner at this track. He's an average his next-gen average finish is 8.3 with a finish of 1st, 6th, and 18th, and he's led 76 laps. 64 of those came in his win in the spring. it's a very unique Final Four, just from all different perspectives. You look at William Byron, who has dominated this season. He's been the best team all season. You look at Kyle Larson. They've been a very good team this season, but not finishing the race has been their problem. If it wasn't for that, they would be up there with Byron with arguably the most dominant this season. Christopher Bell has been hot as of recently. Ryan Blaney has been hot as of recently. They have not put together a full season. They have not been great all season, but they have been putting it together at the right time, and that's why they're here right now. Ryan Blaney has the advantage in terms of racetrack. Christopher Bell has the advantage in terms of crew chief. Kyle Larson has the advantage in terms of raw speed, and William Byron has the best advantage in terms of the season as a whole. I know it's a one-race shootout. Anything can happen, but as a whole, this season, Byron has been the most consistent. So it's time for a championship pick. I've got my hat here. Who am I going to pick? As I said, this track favors Ryan Blaney. He has been so good recently, so hot at this track. For some reason, this track suits him. Christopher Bell once again makes it to the Final Four. This time he didn't need clutch wins, but he does have that clutch gene. Could he have another clutch win in his hands this Sunday? Kyle Larson has been so fast all year long, but sometimes just can't finish the race. And then William Byron, same story, but he can finish the race. Who's it going to be? Well, some of you may call me biased, but there is a trend with this pick. 2021, Kyle Larson, most dominant driver that year. Won the championship, most deserving champion. 2019, Kyle Busch, arguably the most dominant driver that year. Won the regular season championship and won the championship. Very deserving. 2017, Martin Truex Jr. dominated that season, most deserving champion. Won the majority of the races. So every other year since 2017, the most deserving champion has won the championship. And because of that reason, we see something that has not happened since 2001. I think the 24 wins the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series Championship. As a Jeff Gordon fan, that would be amazing to see the Exalted 24 winning a championship again. And it being deserving. The 24 has lost so many championships due to the stupid format, due to the stupid playoffs, the stupid chase. To get one back, to get a deserving one, would mean so much to me as a Gordon fan. It's going to be heartbreaking if he loses it tomorrow. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your championship picks in the comments. This was a long video. We had a lot of numbers to go through. Let me know your thoughts, all that stuff. I'll see you in the next video. We got the Brazil Sprint. We got the Xfinity race tonight, and then we got the Cup Series race tomorrow, and the Brazilian Grand Prix.